All right, so we've got the Bartlein Barrel installed in the forge out chuck and the lathe. It is nice and long, 30 inches, so we can get that held properly in the back of the spindle with the spider and up front here with the forge out chuck. So what we're going to do is we're going to center and align this barrel in the chamber section there. So right now it's spinning pretty cattywampus. I got the back centered up off the bore just for now, just to get us a starting point. So we just use a range rod to get that kind of started. But I'm going to take this off because we're going to be aligning the chamber section of this barrel. Just the forward section, basically the entire length of the chamber from the back of the cartridge or the entrance of the breech to the transition of the throat area there. So from back here to right around there. And that's why I've got the barrel kind of sticking out, because we want to be able to manipulate and align the barrel just in this section. So this section of the barrel is going to be running perfectly true from here to there, which means the back end is going to be a bit off, which is fine. That's going to give us the ability to clock that barrel high side up. So essentially the entire chamber there, as you'll see, is not being pinched by the jaws of the chuck. So it's basically just kind of hanging out there free in the wind. Earlier I had parted off the stamping of the barrel. So I just part that off so that my customer can have a record of the serial number, because Bartlein actually prints or stamps the serial number into these, and a little bit other information, twist rate, material, the rifling, 5R in this case, and things like that. So I part that off clean and give it back. I send it back with the rifle for their records. Okay, so now we're just going to go ahead and center this thing, or align it actually, as it were. I've got a real long indicator probe installed in the indicator right now. It's about almost 2 inches long. So right now we are looking at or touching off on the very deepest portion of that chamber, which means that's where the roundness will be centered. So with the probe all the way in and right around that throat section of the chamber, or where the chamber will be, is what we will use the forge out chuck to adjust. Once that's pretty close, we're going to pull that probe out to just on the entrance of the breech, and then we'll use the back end here, the spider, to adjust that kind of stuff. And that's why I got this angle set up, so you can kind of see me bouncing back and forth rather than just watching the indicator move around. So for this, we're going to look at the high side. So that's low, up, coming up, up, high. So right about here's the high side. So we're going to just tighten up the high side, loosen up the low side, so we get this guy spinning relatively centered. So now we'll go to the low, because we're getting a little bit tight on the jaw. So loosen the low, opposing jaw, we're going to tighten, and vice versa, until we get this section running pretty good, pretty close. And there's low, there's high. Low, high, high. Okay, so we're within a couple tenths here. And that's good enough for now, because every time I adjust one, it's going to throw the other one out. So we're kind of going back and forth until we get aligned perfectly. So let's come out and see we're real close here. So that means the entire bore of the barrel is pretty dang close from up here to all the way back here. So we're a couple tenths, maybe half thousandths out here, and now we're about half thousandths out here. So that means from all the way here to all the way to the beginning, the bore is fairly straight. Who knows what's going on in the middle? There may be a little bit of a rainbow, but at least end to end, we're running pretty straight there. Now this is going to be the opposite. I'm going to look at the low side and adjust, because so we've got 4 opposing jaws, just like up here. So if I push down, and since the barrel is got kind of a pivot point up here, right. No, you can't see that in the camera, but where the chuck is holding the barrel is allowing that stub to kind of pivot up, down, left, right. So it's the opposite. If we push down on the screw here, that's going to cause this end of the barrel to rise up. So that's why it's kind of the opposite. We're going to look at the low side, which is going to be right around here. And we're going to tighten and loosen. Tighten the top jaw, loosen the low jaw. Until we get that section of the barrel running true. So see, we're real close now. Couple tenths. Okay, so let's check the throat area again. Very close, didn't throw it out very far. Didn't have much of an adjustment to do. So there's low, coming up on high. So yeah, we're like 1/10,000ths out here. 1/10,000ths out there. Our jaws are getting tighter. They're getting pretty close to the final torque on the jaws. So I like that. That is definitely running perfectly true there. There's no deviation. The needle is going right back to that same exact spot. We're at like 30. Well, here, let's see if I can adjust this so it's hitting the 30. Pretty close. Close enough. I don't really care about the number. All I care about is it actually coming back to the same point. It doesn't matter if it's a 0 or 40 or 30 or 10, whatever. It doesn't matter. Those are just references. So that's running perfect right there. Let's move it out again. Check the very front of the breech, and we're just a little bit out. 2/10, I'd say. Come here, do some adjusting. Check it. All right, same thing. Let's go back down. There's the low spot. Tiny adjustment, and there we go. We are running perfectly aligned here, so help if I would focus in on the damn thing. All right, there it is. So there, we are perfect. And into the throat area, same thing. So there you go, that's how we align our barrels here in the shop. All right, so coming around to the back side, just stick our range rod in, because I don't necessarily care what's going on the outside of the barrel. I'm obviously concerned about the bore itself, the actual bore of the barrel. This is a Bartlein Barrel. The outside and inside is going to be super close, but still use a range rod for this just to show us the high side. And so I'm just going to set this up onto the range rod so that we can see where the high side is, essentially. So there's low, obviously, and we're coming up on it. There's high. Let's just give it a little more for dramatical effect. There is the highest side of the barrel right there. Right there. Again, that's low, coming up, and topping out right there. Right there. Now we know where the high side of the barrel is, where that bore's hitting the highest spot in relation to our chamber. I'm just going to make a little note here. I just put a T because it's got a straight line that I can kind of align with the very top. Should probably put H, but like I said, this just allows me to see more of a finite area, so I can hit the very, very top, not slightly off one way or the other. So I make marks on the barrel itself and the chuck. Just several different places, so in case something gets rubbed away, rubbed off, I know where the high side is again. Okay, so I'm just going to reconfigure, double check my jaws are tight and that we're still running aligned and perfectly true there from the breech face to the end of the throat area. Okay, so we'll wrap it up here and then come back later for some highlights of the barreling of the chambering process, of the entire fitting and chambering of the receiver. All right, first thing we're going to do is dicum. Add a little of this dicum to give us a layout line for our length. And then also, I did square off the face of this thing previously. After I parted it, I faced it. But now that the barrel is running aligned, I want to see, just out of curiosity, if we're actually out of, how much out of alignment of square, if any, that we might be. So I'm going to shut this off real quick and set up my ARO so I can see and just creep up on it. So it might be a little bit interesting. I doubt it's that bad, if at all, but never hurts to kind of check. Now we're going to come up to it real careful like. So we're about 5/1000ths off here. And nothing. And I'll come in 2/1000ths. Oh, look at that. We're already touching, so let's back off again. All right. We're not touching yet. There, it's wisping just, so there you go. It's a little bit off. Look at that. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, you can see that, I'm sure. Let's focus in right there. Now you'll see, as I mentioned, this was faced off, square, right after I parted it. Well, now that we've aligned the barrel, look at that. It's cleaning up right here on the edge on this side, and then nothing on here. And it's more towards the outside. So that's telling us that we have kind of offset that from where it originally was. So now, and again, who cares? Because we just care about right here, from here to here in the barrel for doing this job. So just interesting. I thought it might be interesting, and look at that. Okay, so let's go ahead and face it off now that we know it's off by 1/1000th or so. So we'll just face off 1/1000th or so off the face, get it cleaned up, so that we know our breech face is perfectly square with the chamber that's perfectly aligned. All right, good deal. So that's looking nice. I'm going to mark out my thread tenon length. Definitely short. So I'm marking it off short so that I have some material to work with, because we're going to have to work that shoulder back in order for the receiver to clock high side of the barrel. Okay, so now we're just going to focus on turning this diameter down to the major diameter, which is 1 inch and 1/16. And like I said, I'm going to increase the feed rate just a little bit. And so we're going to take light passes here. We take light passes, light depths of cut, because we don't want to shift anything out of alignment. Since we worked so hard to get that aligned, we don't want to change any of that. And since I'm using high-speed steel here, you're going to see some stringers. There's no chip breaker on this insert, so we're living life dangerously right now. And we're just going to proceed to cut this down to the major diameter of the thread. Been using this high-speed steel a lot more recently. I have carbide. You probably, if you've been watching the channel, probably noticed I've used carbide a lot in the past. And I just don't think I need it. It's nice and everything, but it's more expensive, wears out. I can't resharpen it. Okay, so it looks like we're about 90 thousandths away from our major diameter. This time we're going to get a little more precise here with the measuring. Use a micrometer. And we're at 1.075 here. So let's take 10, just to account for any flex. Oh yeah, you can see on the way out how it definitely still cutting. Yeah, this is a very rigid setup, but at the same time I got so much sticking out. There's going to be some flex in the system. Yeah, 1.067, so it didn't even take 10. So let's go with about 5 here. Just creep up on it. Let's go ahead and do a cleanup pass here while we're at it. All right. All right, 1.06, 2, and a little bit. Yeah, battery's almost dead there, but we want to be undersized just a little bit, so let's take a finishing pass of like 2 thousandths. All right, see where we're at now. The print calls out for like 1.057, plus or minus, I think it was 4 or 5, something like that. So we're 1.059. 1.059 high, so that's perfect. We're going to stop there. Let's check our print here. Yeah. 1.057 plus or minus 3. So we are right there. Right there within great tolerance of our major diameter here. So let's go ahead and switch out tooling and get some threads cut on this puppy, shall we? Let's make sure we're set up properly. For our 60-degree thread, we should be, I always like to check this, just in case. Just good to make sure we're, do a little sanity check, as they say. Couple different ways you can do this, but this is just quick, dirty method. As long as we're lined up on the very edge of that cutting tool. And we'll check the other side here just while we're at it. Yeah, that looks good. That looks perfect. So we are ready to take our first pass here. I just like to chamfer here at the end. Just a little bit. And we're going to touch off. Just make a scratch pass to verify we got 20 threads per inch. Check it with our pitch gauge. 20 threads per inch. All right, so we're good. Ready to thread to depth. Get a little oil on the situation. And I doubt this is even going to, well, it'll probably start, but it ain't going to. There, it's just starting, but way too tight, so let's keep going. What are we looking for? 32 and a half. Okay, let's check it here. Let's creep up on it. Let's get rid of this bolt here. Don't need the bolt for now. All right, there we go. Still a little snug here. Yeah, still a little snug. Very close, though. Check that. That might be it, folks. Oh yeah, we're good. We're golden there. All the way on. No slop. Not too tight, not too loose. That is just right. That's the Goldilocks thread right there. All right, so we're good with that. No need to take any more out of that. Get this out of here. Okay, next thing is going to be clocking it to the top here of the, where you see the high side of the barrel. Let's see how close we are. Should check this first. All right, so that's the top. We want the top of the receiver to line up with the T. All right, we're close. But since I cut this really short, we're probably gonna have to take a full turn. So where were we? Something like that. We're probably gonna have to go. That won't be enough, so we'll probably have to come around another time, which is fine. That's totally fine. As you see, the thread ended as close as I could get it to the shoulder there without actually bashing into it, but we got plenty of room to work there, and there's a healthy relief cut into the receiver there, so we got plenty of room to work, as long as we don't blow past it. That's the key. Okay, we're getting close here on the indexing, so we're going to take another cut on the shoulder. So we're just working this shoulder back little by little until we screw on the receiver where we've indicated for our high spot, or the high point of the barrel, that is. So there is the highest point of the barrel. Come in here and see how close we are. Okay, we got almost a quarter turn left. It's at this point where it gets a little bit hairy because we're getting a little bit long, so we may be, the worst thing is finding out you're bottoming out on the end of the thread instead of the shoulder. And we may be actually doing that. So I'm going to get some feeler gauges, make sure we're actually torqued up on that. Okay, yeah. Looks like we're still okay. Yeah, okay, we're still good there. All right, so we're like right at the crook of the recoil lug right there. So I'm going to take a very light cut just to make sure we're still indexing, because we're getting close to being so long that we're actually bottoming out. The front of this is going to bottom out in there instead of the shoulder of the barrel torquing up to the face of the receiver. So hopefully we got enough room to work here. Let's just take about 2/1000 here, because the last thing I want to do is blow and have to take a whole nother turn off. That will be bad. Yeah, so we've moved a little bit. Now we're about a quarter away. We are awfully close inside here. I think we'll be okay. Yeah, that's a nice solid torque too. I didn't even give it much of a yark, and it's really solid, so that's a good sign. All right, let's take 2, maybe 3 thousandths here. Let's take 2. I want to leave a little room. Little room for fine tuning. So we might have to fine tune for headspace at the very end. And we want to leave a little for torquing. Final 100 foot-pound torque. To really get that torqued into headspace. All right, so we're right in the middle of this angle. And that went from like there to there, so I think we could safely take 3. Okay. I'm going to leave this a little bit for, like I said, fine tuning of our headspace. So these barrels, this is a pair of barrels, so I want to make sure both of them are exactly the same. So it's easier to take 1/1000ths off or 2/1000ths off of a shoulder than it is to take it out of a chamber. So I'm going to stop there. Happy with that. So torquing on 100 foot-pounds is going to get us super close to this. So like I said, this will allow us some room to fine-tune all that stuff. So now we're going to take a measurement, get this length corrected. We're going to have to back off on the breech face. We're going to have to shorten this just a little bit to get our tenon length proper for the American Rifle Company Coup de Gras Action. Make sure everything's clean, and then we're going to measure. Oh yeah, we're a little long there. Looks like 887, no, 882. Or sorry, 782. So we need 22 thousandths off. We're going to do that with a bigger cutter. Give us that real nice surface finish that we all love. Nice clean surface to measure from. $774. Yep. So we need 14 thousandths. Right, that ought to do it. Right there, 760, perfect. According to our drawing, we have 760 nominal plus or minus 4 thousandths, so we've nailed it right on the money. 760, and also if we need a little fine tuning, we have 4 thousandths to play with here in terms of sending that back, setting that back. Let's just double check here, make sure we didn't blow past anything. And bam, right there. Good. Good deal. So, got a little bit of room for fine tuning. This thing's indexed. And the proper length has been established. All right, so next, we got to switch up. Now we got to cut a cone breech here for our bolt. The bolt has a 30-degree angle here, so we've got to match that so that this bolt can go in there and close. So it needs a little clearance for that. This is a 6.5 Creedmoor, so the drawing calls out for a cone breech for anything under 0.5 inches in head stamp diameter or case head diameter. So we're going to go with a kind of hybrid cone flat breech style breech on this, so got a setup for that. So we'll be back and show you some of that. All right, here we go. Sorry for the funky angle, but I got to get behind everything so you can see what's going on with this cone breech. So we're basically going to just be cutting a 30-degree feature here on the front of the breech face to accommodate that bolt nose. Something like that till we get to depth. And change the angle of my dangle here to kind of better cut with this. Didn't like how it was not cutting the best, and this is probably going to throw everything off. Oh well, you get the idea. Yeah, that's cutting nicer, but unfortunately you can't really see. See if I can help that. Things I do for you guys, man. All right. Not perfect, but it's better. All right, battery's about dead. We're gonna have to come back later. Okay, there's the finished cone breech. Now, the drawing shows a very sophisticated way of checking the actual depth of this thing. You'll get a gauge ball that's 1.1 inch and a quarter, I think it is, and you'll set that gauge ball in there and you'll measure from here to there. And well, as sophisticated as I like to be, I'm not going to spend money on a gauge ball and all that stuff until I do a bunch of these. So for now, we're just gonna use a little inletting black on the extractor there. The extractor is the highest point of that thing, so if anything transfers, this black stuff, and that gets on the breech face, well, we know we're touching still. So if not, we know we got plenty of clearance. So it ain't rocket science. It's clearance, just clearance. We'll spin this on until we torque tightly against the shoulder. Give it a little york. Bolt closes, drops free with no resistance, so that's a good sign. And then we'll wiggle it back and forth all the way forward. Just make sure that it's not touching. So no marks, no transfer on that at all. So it's like we're good. We're good there on that. So next thing to do is check alignment. I'm going to make sure this barrel is still spinning aligned, perfectly aligned and everything, and start working on the chamber there.